Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. A reckless pilot, a new love interest, and another flight assignment. This week we're going back to 1954 for a British war film called The Purple Plane, starring Gregory Peck, Win Min Tan, and Bernard Lee. And this is directed by Robert Parrish. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins with Bill Forrester, played by Gregory Peck, an RCAF pilot serving in the Royal Air Force in Burma. Forrester, who pilots a de Havilland Mosquito two-seat fighter bomber, is distraught after losing his wife in a bombing in London, has become self-destructive. His commanding officer seeks to have him grounded, as his reckless conduct has endangered his flight crews, who have now become reluctant to fly with him. However, it would require the approval of the base flight surgeon, Dr. Harris, played by Bernard Lee, who agrees reluctantly to examine him. The doctor, knowing the fact that Forrester is highly decorated and the best pilot in the squadron, is convinced by the doctor to visit a Christian Burmese village with him. There he is introduced to a beautiful Burmese woman named Anna, played by Win Min Tan, striking a friendship with the two beginning to see one another. Forrester tells Anna about the loss of his wife and his desire to end his own life by dying in action, stating, "You think that would be easy in a war, but I just kept getting medals instead." Anna and he begin to fall in love, and with Anna's support, Forrester begins to recover. Returning to base, Forrester is allowed to fly a ferry mission, breaking in his new navigator Carrington, and transporting Flight Lieutenant Bloor in the Mosquito's bomb bay to Mike Tilla. A routine flight turns dangerous when the right wing engine catches fire. With being unable to extinguish it, forces them down in a remote arid area controlled by the Japanese. The soil and surrounding hills have a purple hue, thus the name of the film. Carrington's leg is badly injured during the crash landing. Without supplies and very little water, Forrester and Bloor are left deciding their plan of survival. So, do the men decide to stay on enemy soil waiting to be rescued? Do they risk a 30-mile hike to the nearest river? Or does a pilot that was believed to be over the top become their only heroic ray of hope? Released September 14, 1954, this film is based on the 1947 novel of the same name by British writer H.E. Bates. Known for his gritty, realistic short stories, writing more than 25 collections and novels set in the early to mid-20th century. The Purple Plane was a box office success, being the 11th most popular film in Britain in 1954, and received 4 BAFTA award nominations, including Best British Film and Best Film from Any Source. And Variety labeled it a fine dramatic vehicle that vividly establishes the atmosphere, and the atmosphere is very gritty. I would call this more of a survival movie that's very enjoyable. And our trivia question this week: did a film debut spawn a movie career for someone who starred in our film? Did a film debut spawn a movie career for someone who starred in our film? So a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. Now, one of the planes used in our film was the de Havilland Mosquito, and another was the Avro Anson, making it the subject of this week's history. And I found an Anson at the National Air Force Museum of Canada in Trenton, Ontario. So, the Avro Anson is a British twin-engine multi-role aircraft built by the aircraft manufacturer Avro. Large numbers of the type served in a variety of roles for the Royal Air Force, Fleet Air Arm, Royal Canadian Air Force, Royal Australian Air Force, and numerous other air forces before, during, and after the Second World War. The Avro Anson was originally developed in 1933 as a passenger aircraft for Imperial Airways, but as the war clouds gathered, the Air Ministry sought an aircraft for use in the maritime reconnaissance and purchased 174 Anson 652s. These went into service in early 1935 as coastal patrol aircraft, and once the war began, as light bombers. With the formation of the British Commonwealth Air Training Plan in Ottawa, Ontario in mid-December of 1939, large numbers of upgraded Anson Mark Is were being shipped to various training centers across the Commonwealth to train bomber crews. More than 1,500 Ansons were sent to Canada, but production in England couldn't match the demand, so the corporation began building Ansons in Canada. Parts were made in Toronto, Winnipeg, and Vancouver, with final assembly done by the National Steel Car Company in Toronto. A further 2,882 aircraft were manufactured by Federal Aircraft Limited in Canada from 1941, and by 1952 a total of 8,138 Ansons had been constructed by Avro in 9 variants. Capable of carrying a crew of 1 pilot and 4 crew members and a maximum speed of 304 kilometers an hour, the Anson was in war service from 1941 to 1947 and remained in RAF service as a trainer and communications aircraft until June 28, 1968. Pretty cool. And a film production note, the Royal Air Force provided 3 de Havilland Mosquito bombers and all the required crew from Singapore. The bomber used for the crash scene was shipped from the UK, stripped of its engines, and cost the production company all of $35. Good thing, because there wasn't much left. And the answer to our trivia question this week: did a film debut spawn a movie career for someone who starred in our film? And this week it is a no. No, it did not. The role of Anna was the film debut introducing Win Min Tan. Born in Rangoon, Burma, she was married to famous politician Bo Setkia, almost 20 years her senior. In 1954, a friend of American director Robert Parrish visited her home and took a photograph of her, which he sent to Parrish. Parrish needed an Asian actress for the lead role. Seeing her picture, flew to Burma and convinced her to accept the role without having any previous acting experience. After filming, she came to the US in 1955 to help promote the film, where she received several offers of film roles. Stating that a film career would conflict with her role as wife, returned to Burma with her husband and never acted again, and that is a real shame. I'd like to give a big thank you to the National Air Force Museum of Canada in Trenton for allowing me to use photos of their Anson. And for everyone else, please click the links below. I added a couple of other war films I thought you might enjoy. Action in the North Atlantic from 1943, that is a Humphrey Bogart war film. And Battle Hymn from 1957 is based on a true story. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope to see you back next week.